Bonjour. Welcome to Wahsa Distance Education Center's radio Zoom classes. This is MEL3E, grade 11 workplace math, and I'm the teacher, Bronwyn Slate. If you would like to participate live today, you can call the Wahsa studio at 1-800-465-71 or
374017. You can listen on the radio at 91.9 FM and also on the television at Bell Express View channel 972. You are always welcome to join me live through the Zoom link, which is available both for me, your teacher, and also your DEC. Our classes are scheduled from Monday through Thursday, 9 until 10 in the morning. We are in our third week of our 9-week course. You should be thinking about submitting work for marking at this point. So a reminder that the support questions, the ones with the little pencil icon, are not for marking. You decide which ones and how many to do. If you understand a concept, feel free to skip questions. You don't have to do them all just because they're there. If you're feeling comfortable and confident, you do what's best for you. But also, if you need more practice, please ask for more practice. I want to make sure you have the tools that you need. The key questions, the ones with a little key icon, are the ones to submit for marking. So these ones, you need to do all of the questions. You need to show all of your work, your steps, your thinking. This way I can know what it is that you know. And if you're struggling with something, it gives me more information to help figure out why you might be struggling. So how do you submit your work for marking? Well, there's 3 methods. The first is to scan and send your work electronically. If you have a device, you can scan your completed work using it. Apple devices have the Notes app that has a scan function, and Google Drive has, Android devices have Google Drive app that has a scan function. They're fairly straightforward point and click scans. But if you do need some support to learn how to do that, I have tech tutorials on my YouTube channel that walk you through step by step how to scan. You can also ask for help if you need to. Then send them to me through either email at studentwork@nnec.owen.ca and CC it to bronwyn.slate@nnec.owen.ca, or send it to me through Facebook Messenger, where my name is bslatewahsa. The second method is to drop your work off into Lookout. We have an outdoor mailbox at 74 Front Street. We are the bright red building next to the post office and have a small white mailbox next to our side entrance. The third method is to hand your work into your DEC. Your DEC can either send your work through the Express or fax it to 807-737-1732 or toll-free fax to 1-800-463-7852. Students can also fax their work. Just give us a heads up, as sometimes things go missing. So it's best if we're looking for it. If you'd like to connect with me through social media, both my Facebook and my YouTube channel are under the name bslatewahsa. All of our radio Zoom classes are recorded and uploaded to YouTube shortly after airing. And then there's also common error and confusing concept videos that I've made that walk through things in a short, bite-sized piece of information in order to set you up for success. Math is a really visual subject, so I strongly encourage you to access the videos. Just listening to me explain things is helpful, but not as helpful as getting the full experience of what I've created for the visuals. So joining me live through Zoom is totally an option. You can even just watch, even if you don't want to talk to me, that's fine. Or you can watch the replays on YouTube, also a great option. If neither of those work for you, you don't have the right internet to make that work, then let me know and I'm happy to send you a copy of the videos so that you get the full experience. So if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out and connect with me. You can email me at bronwyn.slate@nnec.owen.ca. You can connect with me through Facebook at bslatewahsa. give me a call at the office at 807-737-1488, extension 2209, or call toll free at 1-800-667-3703. My office hours are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., though I teach from 9 until 11, so that is not a good time to try to get a hold of me. We are having another Throwback Thursday lesson today. We're going to focus a little bit more on lessons 4 through 8, though we're going to go back all the way to lesson 1 to remember what we've done so far in this course. As we're just wrapping up our 3rd week, you might be asking, why are we reviewing already? We're only a third of the way through the course. Well, there's been studies done that show that we forget information really, really quickly, and we don't retain very much after about a week. So if we're only introduced to a concept one day or work on it for a couple of days and then haven't returned back to it for a couple of weeks, we're going to not remember very much of that information. We forget about 20% of the information just in one day. So if you leave it for a few weeks, then the chances are really good that you're going to have very minimal retention of that information. Whereas the study was continued to show that if we revisit those topics, if we come back and touch base on those topics, then not only do we remember more because we've revisited it and so it's fresh in our minds, but we also don't forget it as quickly. Our brains retain it. We hold on to it for longer and longer the more often we revisit it. So us coming to review every week or two all the way back to the beginning of the course means that by the end of the course, we have a better chance of remembering most of the information. But before we dive into our review, let's activate our brain with some mental math. I don't believe in mad math minutes. They cause stress and anxiety in more students than not, and don't actually teach any skills or tools that you can apply. It just focuses on memorization and speed, and those aren't really useful tools in life. So instead, we develop strategies that you can use in various situations and that focus on comfort and flexibility in your thinking. Our question today is 36 times 15, and we're going to be using the strategy of breaking factors into smaller factors. So both 36 and 15 are factors. When you multiply two numbers together or multiple numbers together, they're called the factors. But what we're going to do is, as there are larger numbers that potentially are not the friendliest to do, we are going to think about what numbers multiply to be those numbers, the factors, and then see if we can rearrange them to make numbers, to multiply numbers that are a little bit more friendly. Let me show you. So I'm going to say, first I'm going to think, well, 15 I know is 3 times 5. Okay. And 36 is 4 times 9. So now what I could do if I wanted to is I could rearrange these factors, because when you're multiplying, it's called commutative, which means that we can multiply any of these numbers in any order and still get the same result. Multiplying 4 times 9 is going to give us 36. Multiplying 9 times 4 is going to give us 36. And so it doesn't matter what order we multiply in. But I'm still not happy in terms of these being the most friendly numbers that I can come up with. So I'm going to even think of that 4 is 2 times 2. And that helps me get numbers that are a little bit more friendly. I can do the same thing with 9. I could break this up into be 9 is 3 times 3, but I don't think that's really going to make my life easier. I think that these are the best factors for me personally to break it up into. So I'm going to think that to know what I'm multiplying, I'm going to do 2 times 2 times 9 times 3 times 5. And I'm going to multiply these numbers, and that's the same thing as if I'm multiplying 36 times 15. And now I can rearrange. Well, the reason I wanted to have this 2 times 2 is because if I multiply 2 times 5, that's 10, and that's pretty friendly. And then I'm going to say, well, if I multiply 2 times 3, that's 6. And then I'm just going to leave the 9 as still just itself. So now, well, 6 times 9 is a number that I have memorized. It's 54. So that's comfortable for me. And then 54 times 10 is 540. And so I was able to manipulate these numbers in a way that they became friendly numbers for me for each step. And again, you can do those in your own ways, which numbers are going to be friendly for you. And this method might not be friendly for you, and you might need to pick a different method that works better for you. But if I do this, then I'm able to get that 36 times 15 is equal to 540. Before we do some practice, we're going to look at the highlights, a review of what we've done throughout the course. So we're going to go back to Unit 1 and remember what those first 5 lessons were that we focused on in Unit 1. So Lesson 1 was earning an income. We looked at salary, piecework, and job advertisements. Remember, salary is when you get paid on a yearly basis. No, you get paid a yearly amount. You generally don't get paid only once a year. You get that yearly amount is broken up into smaller pieces that you get paid consistently over the year. Piecework is that you get paid for the amount of work, the amount of pieces that you create, so the number of lawns that you mow, or the number of shirts that you make in a factory, or the number of bushels of blueberries that you pick, things like that. That's piecework. Then in Lesson 2, we looked at commission and hourly rates. So hourly rates are when you get paid per hour. So the number of hours that you work, you get paid a certain amount for each of those hours. And then that's how your pay is calculated. Minimum wage, remember, is $15.50, I believe now. So you have to, in Ontario, you have to be paid at least $15.50 an hour as a minimum wage. It is not legal to pay you less than that if you are an adult working in Ontario. Then overtime is if you work over your scheduled hours, then you get paid extra for working more than you were required to. Usually you get paid time and a half, maybe double time, which means that you multiply your hourly rate by 1.5 for time and a half, or by 2 for double time. And then that counts only for the extra hours, not for your usual hours, but for the extra hours that are overtime over your usual amount, you get paid that extra amount for. And then commission is when you get paid a percentage of your sales. And that is the money that you make. So you might have a base salary, you might have a base wage, something that you make no matter what. But then in order to encourage you to sell and encourage you to make money for your corporation, for your organization, the more you sell, the more money you make. And then we looked at gross and net pay in Lesson 3. And so we talked about how gross is your total income of all of those things that are calculated, like we just talked about, whereas your net income is after your deductions. So there's standard deductions of income tax, Canadian pension plan, and employment insurance. So we pay into all of these things in order to get the benefits and the services that they provide for us for our community. So our gross pay doesn't include those, then we subtract those things as well as potentially other expenses. And then that's our net income, which is the money we actually shows up in our bank account or is actually on our paycheck that we can take home and spend however we think is right. And then we looked at monthly expenses in terms of how to start budgeting and thinking about the things to consider when you are living your life. I'm sorry. All right, so then to look a little bit deeper at lessons 4 through 8. So in lesson 4, we looked at paying taxes. And so we looked at the paperwork that is involved in paying taxes. So understanding the TD1, the Schedule 1, and the ON 4 to 8 forms. Again, we're focusing specifically as though you're in Ontario, as we are an Ontario-based program. So if you live somewhere else other than Ontario, then you might have slightly different forms. You will have different forms, at least for the provincial territory part. Then we talked about your T4 income and T5 interest slips. So this is showing you where your income is, where your money was coming from, and how much your contributions to various deductions were. And then we talked about any other receipts that you could potentially claim, as there's various types of deductions or claims that you could make on your income tax, which ends up often saving you money, or meaning that you get money back because you paid more taxes than you were required to based on the choices you made in your year. From there, we looked at calculating income tax, looking at the tax brackets, the tax pockets, which is a bit of a challenging lesson. It's definitely math heavy and is a bit confusing, but the idea is that how we calculate our taxes in Canada is that we fill up our tax pockets. So there's a certain, our first pocket is of a certain size, and the amount of money that you pay a certain rate on that amount of money. And if you have less than that, that doesn't fill the whole pocket, you just pay it on that pocket. But if your money fills up that pocket and then moves on to the next pocket, then the amount that is now in the second pocket gets paid at a different tax rate. And that continues for various number of pockets. We have this both at a federal and provincial level. So there are different rates for each of these different levels of government. And then we talked about how you can find your percentage of your income that's taxed is by doing your total tax that you pay, and you divide it by your gross income, and that'll tell you what percentage of your income you're paying in taxes. Then finally, to wrap up lesson 4, we looked at the hidden taxes, which are jewelry tax, cigarette tax, and gasoline tax. So these are places that you don't necessarily realize you are already paying something that has been taxed. You may or may not be paying sales tax on top of it, but that is just, those taxes are integrated into the price of whatever it is that you're purchasing, and you may or may not be aware that that's happening. So then lesson 5, we looked at making purchases. So here we talked about making change and how as a consumer, it's important to be comfortable making change in case cashiers make an error, and that counting up is a strategy that many folks use. We talked about the fewest coins possible and how most people want to have less coins and bills in their pockets, so that they want to use the most coins to pay at a store so that they don't have to carry those around, and then they receive the least coins in return so they don't have as much change in their pockets coming back. Then we looked at sales tax, which are the provincial sales tax, PST, goods and sales tax, GST, and harmonized sales tax, which is HST, which is what we have here in Ontario, where our PST and our GST is harmonized, it's combined. In theory, and to streamline things to make calculating tax a little bit more straightforward. Then finally, we talked about discounts and how when discounts are applied to a purchase, that the money is taken off, the discount amount is taken off, and then tax is added on to the new price. So it's important to calculate those things in that order, that you calculate discount first, then tax. And we talked about estimating costs briefly, in terms of that we don't often use a calculator to calculate exact things, but having the tools to be able to estimate, to roughly understand and know what you are going to be spending with tax included, whether or not you have a discount, is really useful when you're deciding to make purchases. Even if you don't have the exact amounts, having a rough idea can be really beneficial when you're making financial decisions. Lesson 6 was buying decisions. So we looked at the unit price, which is often are called the best buy, but we talked about how more is not always better. So just because you can get more of an item for cheaper, that isn't necessarily the best choice for you if that's say you're buying a whole bunch, 6 4-liter jugs of milk is at a great price, but you only are able to get through 4 of them before they expire and go bad, and therefore you've ended up not getting 2 of those 4-liter jugs. They've just been wasted or something like that. So you have to think about what is actually best for you and not always assume that it's a deal to get the something that is cheaper. Unit prices are done in cost per amount. So dollars per pounds, dollars per liters, dollar per t-shirt, something like that. So when you're finding the unit price of something, you always want to do the cost of it, the money amount divided by the quantity, divided by the amount of stuff that you are looking at. That can get confusing, but you just want to think that you're talking about cost per something. So cost just comes first. Then we looked at incentive programs, which are things that motivate an individual to buy something. Again, it's not always a better deal. So if it's something's like buy 3 for $10 and 1 for $3. Well, if you buy 3 at 1 for $3, they're going to be $9. Whereas if you buy 3 at $10, you're spending $1 more. So being cautious of those sorts of deals and incentive programs is really important because they are not for the benefit of the consumer. They are set up so that you will spend money and the organization, the company will make money off of you, and they're just trying to convince you to do it. Then we looked at currency conversions and how this changes every day. So it's not a static number that we can always say this is always that, but roughly the Canadian conversions is about 1 Canadian dollars equal to 79 cents in US dollars. So we figured out how to convert money back and forth between Canadian and US dollars. In lesson 7, we looked at simple interest, which is calculated only on the principal. It has linear growth, so it's a straight line, and the pattern changes at a constant rate. So we are always adding or subtracting the same amount every time. The formula is I equals PRT, where I is your interest earned, your P is your principal amount, your R is your interest rate, and your T is time. And then if we needed to calculate the final amount, A is equal to your principal, the amount that you invested, plus interest that you just calculated. And finally, lesson 8, we connected simple interest to compound interest. As we introduce compound interest, we will look more at compound interest in our next lessons. But simple interest to compound interest showed how it is more, let's see. So simple interest, again, a reminder that it's only calculated on the principal and its constant growth, whereas compound interest is calculated on the principal and on the accumulated interest. So on any interest that you earn, you also calculate more interest on that. So it has exponential growth. It rapidly changes. So we're increasing by more and more each time period. And it has the biggest impact after long periods of time. So the longer we invest something, compound interest is going to earn us more and more money. We looked at spreadsheets and how you can use those to calculate compound interest. We looked at both Excel and Google Sheets. Remember your booklet walks you through how to use Excel. But if you don't have access to Excel, which many of us don't, as it's a paid program, you can use the same instructions to walk you through how to do the steps on Google Sheets, which is a free online program that everyone has access to save their information through your NNEC email address. And I'm happy to support you to figure out how to do that if need be. Also, if you do not have any computer access, so you don't have internet, you don't have access to either of these programs, please, instead of just skipping this lesson, let me know. And I have an alternative lesson that you can do so that you're able to still learn and analyze the questions and understand the material without having the barrier of not having the technology. We don't want to set you up for failure because you don't have access to technology. That is not ethical or fair. Okay, so that is what we covered so far. We are lesson 8 out of 20, so we are almost halfway through our lessons. So now we're going to do some mixed practice, which means that I have taken a bunch of questions and mixed them up, and we're going to go through them and do the questions. And they're not going to be in order. We're not going to know which strategy, which tools we need to use until we deconstruct the question, which is really important because in life, we don't generally have problems come at us and say, these are the tools you have to use in order to solve this problem, and then you'll be successful. We need to figure out what tools we need to use. So our first question is, a 5.3 liter container of yogurt sells for $4.99. A smaller 500 milliliter container sells for $3.89. Calculate the unit price per liter for each bottle. Okay, so we're looking, this is a unit price question because it asks us for the unit price. So we need to do this twice. So first we're going to do it for the 1.5 liter container. And remember, to find the unit price, we do cost per unit. So the cost is $4.99. And that is for 1.5 liters. So to figure out what it is for 1 liter, we just need to divide that. So we're going to go to our calculator, 4.99 divided by 1.5 is equal to 3.33. So this is $3.33 per liter. So in the 500 milliliter container, well, we want it cost per liter. So first thing we need to do is we need to know that 500 milliliters is equal to 0.5 liters. There's 1,000 milliliters per liter. So 500 milliliters is half of that. So we need to make sure that we convert it to the same units. And then now we're going to do $3.89 divided by 0.5 liters to figure out what it is per 1 liter. So $3.89 divided by 0.5. I've hit extra decimal place is $7.78. So the question is, which gives you more for your money? Well, oops, sorry, per liter. Well, the 1.5 liter container gives you more for your money. So even though the actual container costs more dollars, more money than the smaller container, you get significantly more yogurt for that amount. And that's why we compare it per liter, because now we can say, well, if both of these containers were at a liter, but at the same ratio of price, well, it would be $3.30 for the big container per liter, and it's $7.78 for the little container equivalent. So that can be a really great tool when you're grocery shopping. I use it all the time. So then part C, how might you be able to determine the better buy without calculating the unit prices? So sometimes that's not the most useful tool is to do the unit prices. We can see that the smaller container is 1/3, or the larger container is 3 times the size of the smaller container. So that means that if the price isn't 3 times the price of the smaller container, the larger container's price isn't 3 times the price of the smaller container's price, it's going to be a better buy. So I'm going to say, but the price of the large container is not 3 times the price of the small container. So while unit price can be totally useful in a practical setting, sometimes it isn't worth to do that calculation, but it's instead to look logically and say, wait a second, I see this relationship, and this is an easier, friendlier math for me to do, and this estimation makes more sense and is easy for me to understand in my head. That gives me the information that I need. So then part D says, give 2 reasons why someone would knowingly purchase an item that has a higher unit price. So if something will become unusable, it might not be worth buying the better buy. So it's like food that's going to expire, or if you don't need that much. So for example, you have a recipe that calls for 1 avocado, and you can buy a bag of 6 avocados. That's a cheaper unit price, but you only need 1 avocado, and you're not going to have anything to do with the other 5 avocados. So it doesn't make it's a waste of money and a waste of avocado to buy more than you need. Number 2, Amira works for Ontario Hydro. She earns $26.50 per hour as a hydro technician. She usually works 37.5 hours per week. How many hours does Amira work in a 2-week period? So this seems to me like it's an hourly pay question, because we are talking about hourly pay so far. So an hourly rate. So if she works 37.5 hours in 1 week, then if we times it by 2, that's how much she's going to work in 2 weeks. So 37.5 times 2, I left their decimal point, is 75 hours. Calculate the total earnings for one pay period. So I'm going to assume that this a one pay period is bi-weekly because everything else makes sense that it's bi-weekly, and it just doesn't say that there. So my bad, that question needs to tell you how long the pay period is. So that means that we do 75 hours, because 75 hours is how many she works in 2 weeks, which is the pay period, at $26.50 is equal to $1,000. Nope, I did that wrong. It's close, but I just got my numbers mixed up. $1,987.50. 1987.50. So that's her gross pay for every 2 weeks. So some months, depending on what day you get paid on, most months have 2 pay periods, have 2 sets of 2 weeks in that time period, but some have 3. So in some months, she'll have $1,987.50 times 2. And in other months, which generally happens twice a year, and it's going to happen different times for different people depending on what day you get paid, but you're going to do it times 3. So that's, if it's the 2 pay month, it's $3,975. And if it's 2 pay month, and if it's 3 pay month, then it's $5,962.50. $962.50. So it's good to know when you're getting paid, as having a bit of an influx of money can be useful sometimes. All right. George and Marty are hired to pick strawberries at $2 per liter for $2 per liter basket. George and Marty start work at 7 a.m. and finish work at 5:30 p.m. How many hours do they work each day? So because this is telling us that they're picking strawberries at $2 per 2-liter basket, this is a piecework question. Because the piecework is the number of baskets that they pick. So if they start work at 7 a.m. and they finish work at 5:30 p.m., how many hours do they work? Well, to me, figuring out hours can sometimes be tricky because we use 2 cycles of 12 hours is how I think about it. So I'm going to say, well, from 12 to 5:30 is 5.5 hours. So that part isn't too tricky for me to figure out. And then from 7 to 12, well, I'm going to count my fingers, 7 to 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 is 5 hours. Oh, I don't know why I wrote a 4 there. So that means that in total, they work 10.5 hours a day. In theory, they probably have breaks and lunch, but we're just going to say that they get paid for that full 10.5 hours. So how much did Marty earn if he picked 24 baskets in one day? So we know that for every basket, he gets $2. So $2 times 42 is $84. The same day George picked 29 baskets, calculate his total earnings. So $2 times 29. Well, 29 is really close to 30. So 2 times 30 would be 60. So 2 times 29 is 58. What is the equivalent hourly pay for both workers? So that's asking you what is the dollars per hour like for each workers. So for Marty, it's $84 divided by 10 hours, 10 and a half hours. And for George, it is $58 divided by 10 and a half hours. So $84 divided by 10.5 is $8 an hour, and 58 is $5.52. So that is not very much money per hour. So piecework can sometimes be really tricky because it really depends on how much work you can get done, whether or not you're making a living wage. And that is really, really challenging. Number 5, Jalen is investing $25,000 and has 2 options, both using simple interest. We have Investec Bank offers 4.89% for 3 years. Rabo Direct offers 5.37% for 1 year. Which should she choose? Okay, so again, we have 2 situations. So we have Investec, and our principal is 20. Oh, this is a simple interest question because it says that it's simple interest. Okay, so our principal is $25,000. Our rate is, for this, is 4.89%, which is equal to 0.0489. And our time is 3 years. It's in years, so we don't need to change it. The Rabo Direct, again, the principal is $25,000. The rate is 5.37%, which is equal to 0.0537, and the time is 1 year. So to figure out which is the better option, which is the better interest, because in theory we want to make more money if that's what we're investing, we're going to do I equals PRT for both of these situations and figure out which one earns us more interest. So then we just put in our amounts in I equals PRT. So for the first one, 25,000 times 0.0489 times 3. And that equals $3,667.50. And the second option, Rabo, again, we do 2,500 times 0.0537 times 1. Sorry that I'm squished. So this is one too many zeros. You can see that I forgot a decimal point because my number is so big. So $1,342.50. So it really depends on what Jalen needs. So if Jalen needs the money only in a year, like if she needs it right away, she can only wait a year, then going with Rhabdo is fine. But if she can wait 3 years, then potentially investing for an Investec would be a better option because it lasts for longer. So it really depends on when she needs the money, and you can justify either one. So this information we don't have enough to answer. It depends on when she needs the money. Oops, spelling that wrong. So part B says how much more interest will she make with that option? So it if she can wait 3 years, she'll get more money. So I would say Investec will be more money. So then the question is how much more interest. So we need to make sure that we're answering the question. So that means that we need to do $3,667.50, take away $1,342.50 is equal to $2,325 more if she can wait the 3 years. Number 6, a set of speakers regularly sells for $59.89. The speakers are on sale today for 50% off regular price. Estimate the sales price of the speakers before tax. So this is an estimation question. So we do not need an exact numbers, and it's okay if we're estimating if we don't get the exact same thing. So I'm going to estimate the price. I'm going to round it to something that is friendly. So $60. And the sale price, I'm going to estimate the discount of minus 15%. So, well, 10% of $60 is $6, and half of that would be 5%, so $3. So we're going to take off $9. So the sale price is equal to $60 take away $9, which is $51. And then it says part B is to estimate the HST. So remember, HST is equal to 13% in Ontario. And so first I'm going to estimate 10% is equal to, well, 50, it's going to be $51. It's going to be $5.10. And then a third of 10% is about 3%. So a third of $5.10. Well, $3 would be, a third would be $1. Okay. And then I have $2.10. Well, that reminds me of 21, which is divisible by 3 as 7. So $2.10 is going to be 70 cents. So $1.70 is roughly a third of 10%. So the HST is going to equal to $5.10 plus $1.70, which is equal to $6.80. So then the estimate of the after-tax costs, well, I'm just going to round this to $7 for the sake of ease. So after-tax cost is equal to 51 plus 7, which is $58. So I could have done it more exactly by not rounding the HST. I could have done $57.80, but $58 is just a good, because we're estimating, it's the good whole friendly number that is easy for my brain to remember. Sorry, that was a discount question. So then our last question says to use a calculator to get the exact sale price. So 59.89 times, I'm going to do 0.85 to figure out the exact sales price, was $50.91. The exact after tax cost, so then times that by 1.13 to figure out how much it was in total, was $57.52. So how much was the difference between the exact cost of the speakers and your estimate? Well, my estimate was $58. So minus 57.52. Well, it's 50 cents. If this was just 57.50, then it will only be 50 cents, but it's 52. So that means that it's 48 cents off. So my estimate was 48 cents more than the exact cost, which is pretty good in terms of the information that we need. If I had $50, then I would be good to go to buy this, and that wouldn't be a problem. So that's why estimation can sometimes be really good, is that often you're not even all that far off of the prices exactly, even if you intentionally don't do the exact right things. Okay, so we are now complete Unit 1 and most of Unit 2. So it would be a great idea to submit your lessons 1 through 8 or anything that you have done for marking. Remember, for the key questions, do all of them and showing all of your work so that I can really understand what it is that you understand and give you marks, give you credit for your work. If you have any questions about any of the units or the lessons, please reach out and connect with me. Give me a call at the office at 807-737-1488, extension 2209, or toll free 1-800-667-3703. My email address is bronwyn.slate@nnec.on.ca, and that's spelled BRONWYN.SLATE. My Facebook is bslate Wahsa. My YouTube channel is also called bslate Wahsa, and all of our lessons are under playlist MEL3E. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a lovely day, which